Hello, this is Dale Robbins from the Eubank Church of Christ with another Moments with the Master. These lessons are simple reflections upon various moments that occurred in the life of Jesus. Many people are unfamiliar with the details of his life, but the events that occurred were so persuasive to the apostles, his devoted followers, that they were willing to die, going to a death of violent nature, simply to affirm their conviction that Jesus was truly the Son of God. The story picks up today in John chapter 2, where we find that Jesus has now left the region, probably over around Bethsaida, and traveled some 15 miles or so to a village called Cana in Galilee. And whenever he arrives there, he and his apostles, his disciples at this point, are invited to go to a wedding feast. Jesus now has an enclave of friends who are traveling with him, listening to his teaching and watching the things that he says and does. On this occasion, they show up at a wedding feast, and there is an unfortunate turn of events. The governor of the feast has not made adequate provision for there to be beverage for all of the guests. Whenever they are running out of wine, that's the word that's used there, is that Mary comes to Jesus and explains the problem to him. Now let's think about the wine here for just a moment. Throughout the Bible, the same word in the New Testament is used for wine over and over again. And sometimes it means a form of hardened liquor by natural resources that would let you get to maybe roughly 5 to 8% alcoholic content. Nothing parallel to the kinds of wines that are purchased in stores here today. But even by natural standards, there was a possibility of the wine being allowed to ferment and develop an alcoholic content. But more frequently than not, the wine of the New Testament is talking about unfermented grape juice, as when Jesus talked about putting new wines into old wineskins, and that was not an advisable thing to do. So the context helps you understand what kind of wine is being discussed. So Mary comes to Jesus. All of the wine that was on hand has now been consumed, and she sort of dumps the problem in Jesus' lap. He says, "Woman, what have I got to do with you?" And she just simply turned to the student or to the servants and said, "Whatever he tells you to do, you do it." Jesus saw that there were some water pots there that held a good deal of water, and he asked them to fill those up. Whenever you actually calculate how much the firkins were and the capacity of those water pots, you have roughly 162 gallons of beverage that Jesus supplies. Because after the water pots are filled to the brim, he asks them to draw out some and take it to the governor of the feast, and this becomes the beverage that is served throughout the remainder of the marriage celebration. Now, if they were using hardened liquor, and everybody had already drunk up everything that was available, and then Jesus produces about 162 gallons more of it, it certainly would be hard to understand how the Bible could teach against drunkenness, but it does. Drunkenness is included as a work of the flesh over in the book of Galatians. So we have full confidence that Jesus did not supply hard liquor on this occasion, but rather simply provided grape juice for the audience at that wedding to consume. But this is recorded as being the first of the miracles that Jesus performed. You can imagine how astounded the disciples were when they saw water being poured into those water pots, but then tasted the wine that came out of it. More and more their conviction was strengthened that this man is special. Jesus indeed is the Son of God, and they wanted to know more. And we pray that that is the same conviction that you will have, that you'll want to read more in the Gospels and find out more about this Jesus. And we would love to have you visit us at the Eubank Church of Christ, and we'll be glad to guide you in that study. Thank you for joining us.